right. So we're live across all the platforms. Yay! So excited. So we're going live. So I'm going to kind of wait. We're on LinkedIn, Twitter, 3 Facebook pages, YouTube.
Oh, God.
All over the place.
I love it.
Right. And so as people are tuning in, we have a couple of people joining us. And of course, this will be on replay. So you can go back and you can re-listen, and the audio will be dumped over on PR Yourself with Leah Frazier. But without further ado, I'm so excited for the guest that I have today. And it was kind of serendipity how I found you. Hi, Sipo. How are you? I got a Google alert that the podcast was like mentioned in a release, and it was from your firm. And I was just like, oh my God, that just made me feel so good about myself.
As you should.
And I was like, they're a big deal. Like, oh my gosh. And so I reached out and I was like, oh my God, you totally have to be on my show. So welcoming Dara Busch of 5WPR to the show. And when I say they are major, you guys, like, I'm not even sitting here like fluffing. I can just name drop like WNBA. I can start naming clients and campaigns they've worked on. So I think you're amazing, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. I think you're pretty amazing too, which is why I cited you in that article. So psyched to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're so welcome. Why PR? Why did you choose PR?
You know, it's so funny. I kind of stumbled into PR. I started in jewelry PR. And I just sort of stumbled in there and I really liked it. And I think right out of the gate, I started to love the hustle of it, right? Like no 2 days are ever the same. And finding something that like nobody knows about, or maybe a few people know about, and taking it and giving it reason for people to look and to see and to try, and it made all the difference for me. And to see something go from like nothing to big was really exciting for me. And I felt like I could be on the ground floor of so many businesses and clients. And it really has come and evolved into what I find to be one of the best careers I could have ever asked for.
How do you make jewelry pop? I mean, I see our necklaces right now, and I'm thinking like PR campaigns for jewelry.
Let me tell you, my first job I had, my client was Laura Ashley Watches, and I had like a portfolio of watches that like came in this box, and I would like literally show up the magazines and be like, do you want to see my watches? Like, and it was like, my pitch was terrible. Like I tried really hard. I gave it all I could give. And I got a few bites, but it was like a great, it was like almost like a traveling saleswoman, and it worked. And and when people started to have a little bit of interest and wanted to borrow a watch for a shoot, I was like, yes, I'm doing it. And so it evolved, and I was like willing to keep going. And I did jewelry for a few years, and then I sort of floated into entertainment, and then I really became a luxury entertainment generalist, and here I am today.
And you're the co-CEO of your own PR firm. Talk to us a little bit about 5WPR, what you guys do, and some notable clients you represent.
Definitely. So we have been around for almost 20 years, which in PR, like that's a big deal. And 5W is a great agency. What's cool about 5W is that we've grown because of happy clients, right? We do good work. And I think when you talk to our clients and you see some of the things that we do, it's like one happy client tells another happy client about us. And that's really rewarding. We have great clients, anything from Foxwoods to Sparkling Ice to GNC. We do work for AT&T, Revolt. I mean, we work with so many great companies and brands and people, Pioneer Woman. I mean, you name it, we have a finger in it somewhere. And so what's nice is we do, earned media, we work with influencers, we have a full social team. So we do it all. And we're working really hard to change with the times. I don't have to tell you that this is a wonky world we live in. And it was wonky before 2020. And it just got crazier, right? And so we've had to change and adjust, and we've had to become different, right? And in doing that, we've had to learn a lot along the way, and we've doubled down, and we've increased the way that we look at research and analytics, and how do we present to clients, and how do we give them more, and all that matters now, and it never did before.
That analytics and reporting, that's a whole nother conversation for another day.
It is.
It's a lot.
It is. And it's also, today it's really hard. We're not all together every day, right? I mean, we go into the office a bunch of days a week, but how do you keep people engaged together and get people to brainstorm together and come up with great ideas and evolve and grow? And it's a challenge, but we're in for it.
I like a couple of things. Well, a lot of what you said, but I like that there was some grassroots elements that you talked about when you were representing the jewelry company. You were like, I went directly to them. And then there were some other elements that you said that was strictly important about just how this is the ever evolving and changing industry. So many times people try to put PR in a box, and I feel like they try to just narrow it down to press and media. And you mentioned like the grassroots and kind of like a guerrilla marketing tactic, right? But you also said that there was influencers and other avenues. Talk to us a little bit about just how this scope is kind of changing when you're trying to engage with PR. It's not just a one-trick pony.
Yeah. I think years ago, it used to be, here's a newspaper, and if you're in that newspaper or that magazine, you've hit it big. Well, it's not necessarily like that anymore. You have to meet people where they are, right? And consumers aren't right now only reading magazines and only meeting, only watching certain shows. Like, people are using all different mediums to try to dive in there and learn about a brand. And so this landscape has changed, right? And what used to matter a ton, we had a client that came to us and said, all I want is GQ. If you get me GQ, like, it's game over. And
it's the same retainer and everything.
Same, and we got them. Well, they wanted other stuff too, but GQ was like, on this pedestal. And it took a little bit, and we got them GQ, and they didn't see what they thought they would see from like an influx of, and we got something on today.com. A couple weeks later, similar story, and their site crashed. They had so many people trying to buy their product. And there's no perfect recipe for it anymore, but you have to meet consumers where they are, and that's on their phone, right? You have to meet them where they are. They're listening, like to you. They're, as we kicked off, you talked about all the different places that we're live right now, and that's you can access that anywhere, right? And so meet people on social media, meet people in places where they're going to grab content, because they're not searching for things anymore. It's easy, and it makes a difference.
I love that you said that, because a lot of these platforms you talked about are free. They're right there at the tip of your fingertips. And the podcast addressed a lot of startups and small businesses who just don't have the budget to have a PR firm on retainer, or that have a marketing budget. So these are, to me, just easy strategies or things to utilize that's not going to really hit you in the pocketbook.
Right. It gives you access to really good information, especially podcasts. I mean, for us, podcasts right now are such a great form of long form, interviewing. It's, you don't just learn a little bit or have a piece or a quote. Like, you really can dive into a topic, and really, whether that's learning about a brand, or in your case, learning about, how to the ins and outs of PR, like, all of that is really important. And so I think when you look at, the changing world, you've got to look at things like podcasts. You have to look at, social media that's free, to your point, and figure out how you can be authentic and reach an audience that's going to know that you're speaking directly to them.
Is there a tip you can throw as far as, because a lot of times small business owners don't even know, they're so overwhelmed when it comes to like the podcast strategy for PR. Because there's millions of podcasts out there, and they're just like, I don't know where to shoot my shot. And then I don't know if I get on this one, is anybody even listening? And so they get overwhelmed.
Well, there's a lot out there, right? And there's so many, as you probably think, there's 1,000 PR people in this world. There's 1,000 podcasts. There's so much of everything, right? And so I always say to folks, whether they're new on our teams, are you listening to them? Are you watching them? You can't pitch what you don't hear or see, right? So be an informed, consumer, or an informed, pitcher in this case, and make sure, do I really like see eye to eye with, the host of this podcast? Do I feel like they're going to get me, right? Or our vibe the same? And so I think there's there's a connectivity point as one, are the topics that we're going to discuss the overall, show, does it make sense for my brand? Do I connect with that person? But also, who's their audience, right? I mean, you hear about big brands and they engage, they spend all this money on things like macro influencers, and it's the wrong audience, right? Like, make sure your audience, there's so much information out there. Make sure the audience that you're trying to hit is the right audience. It's not that hard, right? Like, there's so much that you can do in that sense to make sure that you're hitting the right audience. So you're not wasting their time. You're not trying to literally play a game of whack-a-mole where you're trying to do all these
I like that game though.
I do too. only sometimes, but not when you're trying to keep your head above water and you're trying to start a business and you want to do this and you want to do that. There's only so much time in the day. So make it count. Do the right podcasts that fit you across the board.
I love that. So we'll put that as a tip, the podcasting tip.
I like it.
I like that tip too. And I love when I'm trying to talk to somebody about it. I think of it in terms of SEO too. Do you know how many places some of these podcasts get distributed to? I know mine alone is in over 30 different locations. So I'm you have a host that will work with you on the copy and the caption, and you're using your SEO keywords. Just multiply that by 30 times on the web, and say you pitch 10 podcasts. That's 300.
Right. The cash register is going like this.
Yes. You can't beat it. Cha-ching. That's a good whack-a-mole. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a good point. SEO is so important right now, and brands are just starting to realize the importance of SEO, right? You have to make sure that you figure out what your keywords are. And when someone's searching for something, you should bubble to the top of their search. And so the podcast has to definitely get you to, have enough relevance to bubble up for sure.
What else are you seeing as we're shifting from we had the pandemic and then people had to get super scrappy or even rebrand or even re-strategize in terms of PR? Where do you see us headed for 2023? Things maybe we should be looking at, or new mediums that maybe we haven't considered before?
So I think that brands, a couple of things. One is authenticity, right? A brand, there's such transparency today. A brand can't pretend and I'll use the term being a poser, right? That old term, you have to, if you're going to do something, do it, right? Don't pretend to do it. Be authentic. If you're going to back a charity, you're going to make a stance, do it. Right. Obviously, be careful of cancel culture. Don't get me wrong. You certainly can step in a pile of mud, but what I would say is make sure that your content is authentic. Your brand be authentic to yourself. Have a purpose. Decide what that is, whether that's on a CSR level, whatever that means for your brand. But be true and authentic to yourself, right? Because people see through it. You can't say, "Oh, we're gonna do X, Y, and Z for the environment," and then people start to look at your packaging, and your packaging doesn't reflect that. Consumers are too smart these days, and there's a lot of visibility into your brand. So I would say, most importantly, be truly authentic.
I love how you said that, because I used to do work for a company that said for every such and such, we plant a tree, and it worked. But I remember the questions we got. They wanted to know who we partner with, where are you getting the tree from, and
how many trees did you plant?
Exactly. And where can I find said tree? So
totally. Absolutely. And I think the same is true in diversity and inclusion, right? So many brands today are talking, there's such an importance for brands right now. We're doing a great work with AT&T, and for us, I think what's really nice is brands are really trying to step up their game. And really, whether it's increasing their workforce and making sure their workforce is more diverse, but also going out and having programming that really matters. And so, it's really important for brands to continue to not just talk the talk, to really do it. And we're seeing our clients really do it, and it's exciting. It's a great, it feels really good.
And I love AT&T. I do believe, and they're doing an excellent job. So kudos to you guys on everything. You mentioned influencers. I kind of want to backtrack on that a bit, because I feel like that is often a strategy that a lot of small businesses or entrepreneurs have to implement, because you can reach a mass audience or reach that target audience a lot quicker than them trying to have to organically grow their own social media followings and things of that nature. So where do you see things headed? I thought we were gonna lose the the micro and the macro influencers at some point and go super nano, but I don't know what we should be looking for anymore.
I don't know. The macro, I think a lot of brands are sort of taking a step away from, unless it really makes sense and their budgets are just bonkers, right? But I think when you look at nano, you look at micro influencers, it's all about engagement, right? How do you engage with a brand, and how do you engage with consumers in a way that's meaningful? UGC is huge. Like, how do you look at that, that user generated content and make sure that you're reposting it, so people want to see that it's not just a promotion, right? They want to see the realness in the brand. And so influencers provide that, especially when you're seeding influencers and you're not paying influencers. You have a cool product, you have a cool experience, whatever that might be, and you're able to allow influencers to see it and try it and give an honest opinion. Like, there's something really, really genuine about that. And I think consumers want to see genuine. When it's a sponsored post, there might be like a pause for a second. And listen, certainly big brands do it, and there's a cool factor to it, so don't get me wrong, but there is certainly a lot of weight in that engagement and that those smaller audiences, and that are very niche, that really target the audience that's really interested in that brand. And so, and there's so many great tools out there now. And obviously, for a brand that's just starting out, that might be a little harder. Maybe you can get a free trial, but there's a lot of tools that can tell you exactly who the audiences are of the influencers that you reach. You can also do some Google research and get a little bit of it. But, what's nice about it is that, you're not just going blindly anymore, right? Everything used to be just so blind. You never knew, well, I think that they're going to hit our audience, or, I think that there's a really good, there's enough data out there to be able to sort of make sure that who you're targeting really makes sense for your brand.
I love that. And I still see success with influencers, and sometimes it's often a battle with clients, because I have to convince and get over this follower hurdle first. Like, oh, you're giving me somebody with 5,000 followers. I'm like, yeah, but this person is in the community and they're a part of the PTA.
They're engaged. Yeah, they're engaged followers.
Yeah, and they kind of serve in these different influential circles versus just staying on social media the whole time. And so we still have to destigmatize influencer conversation.
Yeah, you do. And I think that influencers are a great way to hit all different audiences, right? Like, you can, clients say to us, what should I do? What kind of influencers? Like, there's no perfect recipe, right? So we say you have to test, do a little here, do a little there, and see what works. What, GQ might not have worked for that one client. It might not have blown their sales out of the water, but another brand, it might have, right? And so, like, it used to be the recipe was just so specific, but it's not anymore. The recipe today is trial and error. You have to see what works and double down on what's working and take steps back from what's not. And just because it didn't work once doesn't mean it's not going to work the second time. So don't literally abandon ship because this type of influencer wasn't fruitful. Try it again. Try it a few times. Make your investment minimal. And if you find that it's not working, then work on a different strategy to find somebody who is going to work for your brand.
I love that. And we have a Facebook user that says, what's a good influencer app to use for research?
So we use big brands. We use things like Creator IQ. So, I'm not sure. I certainly can double back to you and let you know what some of the free ones are. We're lucky enough that we have the ability to use big tools that we have through 5W. But what I'd say is, there certainly are some things that you can use online, and definitely can let you know what those are. I don't know. I don't use them, so I don't know, but certainly can let you know.
Yeah, and there's some really, to your point, there's some low-cost software as well that if you can't afford to go to an agency or go through one of these influencer platforms to find the influencer, you can at least load them up into, there was a software platform I was using years ago, and I'll research that for you guys and put in the caption, where at least I could, if I was using the influencer, I could link them and actually see their engagement without them lying to me. There was no way they could lie because it was synced to their account. Yeah. And it was amazing. And to your point, if they did great, we hired them again.
Right. And there's now all different ways, like, and that our digital team can put some like back end things into Google to really see, really track where things are coming from, which is so cool, right? You know, I was talking to somebody yesterday and we were saying how PR used to be all about, you present these, it was, you had 1 billion, your viewership was 1 billion on this crappy little hit. And the answer was it really? Like, we all used the same terrible formula. We all were reporting ridiculously, right? I mean, you know that, right? And so now we're really able to say where things are coming from, what actually is, what are people clicking through on? So you can really see what's working, as opposed to just being like, I think that's working, but I'm not really sure, right? Like it's certainly, you can be a much smarter business owner than ever.
I love that. As we kind of wrap, is there any other tips or trends that you're seeing in PR that's kind of making you guys' job a little bit easier, or that's helping you to hit the nail on the head?
So I would say there are two. One is, I would tell everybody, be careful. There's a big cancel culture thing going on, and make sure that you're smart. Don't do something stupid that's going to affect your brand. Don't, because companies and brands are making, doing really great things. And you have one really silly person who says something they shouldn't say that just doesn't make sense. And it just, be careful, right? Like it's such an easy way for a brand to go on a landslide very quickly. And if you do find yourself there, make actions quickly to fix it. The longer you wait, the worse it is. You can jump in there, you can change things quickly, and you can right the ship if you do it smartly, but you got to be careful and don't be stupid.
Yeah, it's gotten so bad. We've had several episodes on this. And then
I saw
before this was just because I was seeing things online and these businesses, and I'm like, no, that lives forever. Like, what are you doing?
Right. I say to people, employees or interns all the time, like, don't put anything on social. You don't want to be the reason you don't get a job in life. Like, just, guys, be smart.
Yeah, it's and that's another great point too. As you guys are growing your businesses, as much as you think about your external PR and what that looks like for you, PR is also internal as well. Like, what communications are you having with your employees and the business as a whole?
Totally.
Because that's a whole nother animal, and you're gonna need crisis management.
Absolutely, 100%. And then the other thing I would say to you is research, right? That is where we are going in this world of PR. It is research and analytics. Like, there's so many great ways, and there are so many, if you do your research and really look, if you're going to do something, you're going to invest money, spend some time and look at what other brands did. You can really, obviously you can pay someone, but if you want to be scrappy about it, do some research and make sure that everything you're doing makes sense, right? Just spend a beat. You have so many resources out there with Google and social media. You can see what brands are doing, similar brands are doing, what worked, what didn't work, what was the engagement. You can really get a feel for what's working for other brands, so you can make smart decisions for yourself.
I 100% agree. There are some times where I'm like, why did my client make this list or whatever? And I'll research that, okay, the top apps were mentioned here, here, and here. I'll just reach out to the writer and I'll say, hey, next time you're thinking about compiling this same list, I want to talk to you about this great app. I send them over the information, and sometimes it works when they update the article or they rewrite it again for the year. We kind of merge right on in, and like you said, it was just being scrappy and then researching to see what's being published out there for a similar concept brand.
You can be really good at doing research. You just have to get lost in Google.
Yeah. I like that. Get lost in Google.
Get lost in Google.
Maybe that's my title of this episode.
Exactly.
Well, I appreciate you so much, Dara. We've got so many different tips. Ronnie says great tips for corrective action and longevity in our respective careers and businesses. Great advice. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like, how can we continue to follow all of your great work? And
definitely follow me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. You'll see me there, and I post a lot, and I reach out to me. I'm always happy to respond. It's the easiest way to certainly get to me is through LinkedIn for sure.
And if you share this or you're tagging someone in this, please be sure to also tag 5WPR, which they're excellent, by the way, because they were on it yesterday when I posted this. So the team
we try.
And thank you guys for tuning in. Save this one down, share it out. If you do if you're watching it on like YouTube or LinkedIn or any of those places, please tag some other folks and business owners who may need this information, and be sure to follow 5WPR. And with that being said, thank you so much.
Thank you, Leah. Have a great weekend.
You too, and everybody have a fantastic weekend. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.